unless there's a huge problem, we have Dan Brown from Garland Roofing. Is anybody opposed to allowing him to give his presentation? I'm not sure where he comes from, but he might have a drive home and then move into our consent items.
That's fine.
Okay, I will turn it over to Mr. Brown.
I'm Greg Brown.
Greg Brown, excuse me.
Always like to say that. I took a look at your roof for you, and is there anything I need to, did you preface anything, or should I just kind of review a little bit, or?
Not much.
Not much?
We haven't spent much time talking about it. We mostly discussions, and we need to be thinking about doing something, and you have to look at it, so the obvious was to kind of start the discussion.
Well, I'm just doing a short, brief overview, so it's not going to be too intense. And if you have some questions, then we'll get to that. But I'm not going to get real excited about, I didn't bring a PowerPoint or any of that. So hopefully what I have to say or any questions you may have, maybe I can answer and just go over it. I'm with the Garland Company, and I'm kind of technical consultant with those guys. And I take a look at schools' roofs, management programs for roofing for many different companies and schools. And you're just part of an industry I work with. In industry, I kind of St. Luke's Hospital, Methodist Medical Center, Lutheran Hospital, Mid-American Energy Power Plants. There's some of the industrial accounts. I also work with schools currently, today. Jefferson, we have projects with Lennox, big, small, Storm Lake schools. I'm just one of a mixture of people that I have a little bit of knowledge in. And what you guys have been indicated to me, a little bit of steel roofing. I've done quite a bit of those, and also just the low slope flat roofs like what you have. So I've been doing this a long time, enjoy it, and of all things, I'm in roofing. So my initial thing I do with the school district is just take a look at your existing roof, kind of give you an idea of where you're at. And then hopefully you kind of get an idea of where you're at, and then we move from there. So you kind of plan what's going on. I'm just going to kind of dive into your existing roof. How old is your building? You know how old?
It's built 1984.
1984. Bought a new car in 1984.
It's been 11 years of my life getting this built.
We're not talking about building another building. We're just talking about a roof. So, but this roof asset is a huge thing. You have 60,000 square feet approximately of roofing. So, 60,000 of a 1984 roof that has a life expectancy of 1994, and you're into what you are in today. So, basically, what it is, you have a metal deck. And then you have an R20, approximately a little bit more of insulation. Very good insulation. At that time, it was the best. And we still use that same exact insulation that we have to this day. And then you have what's called VPDM rubber roof over the top of it. And it's just like an inner tube of a tire. And I don't know if you're all familiar with that. And then there we have a ballast rock on top of it, and that ballast rock is stone. It holds the roof down, and it protects the roof from UV rays from shrinking. In particular, your roof has been around this long because there's good slope to the roof, so you get to the drains that need the water, so there's good slope on the roof. And the stones are spread across the roof very well, and you have little of wall flashing, so there's no exposure too much of the rubber itself to the sun, and so it's actually worked pretty well. But what it does is it tends to shrink. It shrinks quite a bit, and it pulls at the perimeter edges, and then it shears or kind of comes apart, and you see that, but you've been doing regular maintenance, and we have leaks. And you're at the point that actually you're beyond the point of the useful life of this, normally the useful life of this roof. So you're doing really good in what we have here. So the point is, what do you want to do with it? Your roof is not a failed roof. It's not in a failed condition. I wouldn't say you have to do something tomorrow. But you do have a great big gym, and you have a nice school, and we know that this roof does fall apart, it shrinks, and it creates a problem. So you're into trying to take a look at what can be done. So I don't know where you want me to go from there, but roof asset preservation techniques is trying to keep your existing insulation rather than wait for it just to completely continue to get wet or have problems, and then you have to remove the entire roof. We try and kind of get something a little ahead of that before we have to remove everything down to the deck and start new. So if we can re-roof your roof before it gets to that point, the cost savings on insulation for 60,000 square feet is about $140,000. So if you re-roof the roof before you have to tear off the entire, all the insulation that's up there, you can reuse that insulation. That's $140,000 savings if you allow it to go to the end of its useful life when it gets wet. You know, then you have to remove the entire thing down to the deck. That insulation, that just insulation is worth that much. There's no value to add insulation because you already have insulation up there that's adequate. So there's no payback on adding insulation to what you have. So it's doing a really good service for what you have. So really all we're trying to do is replace the waterproofing membrane that's up there. And then that just comes into whether you want to switch out with the same type of roof or you want to go to a steel roof. So what we get into is that's a $600,000 to a $900,000 investment in your roof. So that's kind of where we're at. The high end of that is to try and put a steel roof to retrofit it over the top of what you have, or kind of go back with some type of long-term low-slope roof that is out there. And in general, that's in a nutshell where you're kind of at. So I don't know if you have any other opinions or have questions, but that's kind of the idea that I'll just throw out real quick.
Put the same roof back on this building. Today's materials, are they the same as they used back then? I mean, you talked about the material being like a inner tube. Is that what they use today?
This is the kind of the lowest value roof that's out there, and I'm quite surprised it's lasted this long as what you've had. But it's done a very good service to your building.
But there is a different material that's probably a better material that they use today than when they built this building?
There's probably 5,000 different types of roofing materials.
Okay.
And so you have roofs that have that same exact roofing material goes on pretty much 90% of all the new roofing that is out there today on all new construction, because you kind of roll it out, throw the ballast on, and it's about the least costly roof out there. So I encourage people to try and upgrade a little bit when you're trying to put a roof on. It's a little hard to tell you that there's better roofs. I mean, yours lasted quite a long time.
What material goes on 90% of the buildings then?
On new construction, it's this type of roof.
Okay.
And then it's just a kind of all the way across the board. When you get to re-roofing a roof, and you get into different types of materials, rubber, single ply is what this is, a single layer roof. We have steel, we have multi-redundant types of ply, so there's more than just one. And
so in your professional opinion, what would you recommend?
I guess I like steel retrofit roofing. I've just done a ton of it. Your particular roof, though, is designed that makes it difficult for me to do that. So I'm dumping water off on the sidewalks. I'm having to put intricate gutter systems. I haven't really researched it enough to really get down to it, but for fun, I mean, I like to start at the top end of something that's pretty cool. And steel roofing is I like to say steel roofing is like a free roof, because you can re-roof your building, 3 or 4 or 5 times, and you're never going to replace the steel roof.